Hello and welcome to interest.co.nz. I'm Janae Tibshirani and today I'm joined by the Opportunities Party member Geoff Simmons. Welcome, Geoff.
Kia ora.
Geoff is an economist who worked for Treasury and the UK Civil Service before becoming the General Manager of the Morgan Foundation. Just over a week ago, he announced he'd take on Labour's Jacinda Ardern and the Green Party's Julie Genter in the Mount Albert by-election. Geoff, I believe your dad is a strong Green Party supporter and has even helped with Julianne's campaigns.
In the past, absolutely.
Have you convinced him that the Opportunities Party is the way to go?
Well, he came to the launch, which was last week, and he left swayed by that. So I mentioned to Julianne that if she wants to keep his vote, she might have to do a bit of extra campaigning.
Okay, right. It's good competition there.
Absolutely, healthy.
Healthy competition. Right, you've said that National's absence in the by-election is a large part of why you've put your name forward in this by-election.
Yeah.
I mean, is it really about giving people choice, or is it about using this as a platform to sort of promote the party?
Well, of course, we're a new party, but we really weren't expecting to stand. I mean, we haven't even got all our policies out yet. So it was National's absence that really pushed us across the line. Plus the fact that the two major competitors are Labour and the Greens, which doesn't really give people a full. A wide array of choice. So we thought that we might be able to broaden that palette somewhat. Yeah. It is partly about about getting out there and a platform to talk about things.
Sure. Okay. Look, if we describe Labour as centre-left and the Greens as more left, how would we describe the Opportunities Party in a few sort of simple phrases that people can understand?
Well, we're absolutely centrist. I mean, in terms of what we are trying to achieve, we think that very much appeals to middle New Zealand. But what we're talking about is much more radical. We actually want the policies that will actually deliver the kind of New Zealanders, the kind of country that people say that they actually want. So instead of the same sort of business as usual establishment party, we make great promises but we don't actually deliver anything. We just tinker at the edges so that we don't upset anyone. We're proposing some quite bold changes.
Yes.
So two words, and this is my choice of words. I call it radical centrism.
Great. I haven't heard that one before, so that's good.
It's new, but we're in a new phase, right?
Yes.
Left and right's disappearing. The politics all around the world is changing. It's time for something fresh.
Great. Okay, Geoff, I want to talk about Mount Albert now.
Yes.
When's the last time you lived in Auckland?
It was 1999.
Okay, so what do you having not lived here for a while, but your family live here and you're from here, you went to Avondale College and
went to Avondale
Auckland
College,
Uni?
Auckland University.
Okay.
Was even born in the electorate actually.
Right.
At St Helens.
Okay, so what do you think are the two biggest issues facing the electorate?
Well, I think the two biggest issues facing the electorate are actually reflected right around the country, certainly around this city. Rents and house prices has to be number one. From talking to people, that is absolutely the thing that comes up time and time again, and that is not only affordability, but the impact that's having on poverty and inequality as well. The second big issue I would probably say in the suburb is infrastructure. If we are going to increase the population within that set area, then we do have to make more use of what we've got. So that's transport, that's sewage infrastructure. It boggles me that we are still pumping raw sewage into the Waitemata Harbour. I cannot get my head around that.
Right, okay, well that's an issue that hasn't been talked about a whole lot, but that would be a big priority in terms of the infrastructure along with the transport?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
We can't, the Opportunities Party has been very big on polluter pays, and we're sending a message to farmers and to corporate polluters out there that, if you are polluting, we expect you to pay to clean up that damage, and by the same token, if you are actually farming in a very environmentally friendly way, we'll pay you. That's actually where some of the money will go. We can't stand up and say that. We can't lecture farmers if we're dumping raw sewage into the Waitemata Harbour.
Sure.
That is, it just totally lacks integrity.
Okay. Look, in terms of the transport part of that infrastructure, I noticed the Opportunities Party doesn't have a transport policy as such yet.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So I just want to talk a bit about that because this was Julianne Genter and Jacinda Ardern came in. We talked a lot about transport. The Green Party, if we look at the light rail, which is proposed eventually, hopefully, from the North Shore to Auckland Airport via Dominion Road.
Yeah.
Julianne Genter wants the central government to fund the whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Labor and Jacinda Ardern want central government to fund half and council to fund the other half.
Mm-hmm.
The government is still tossing up what it's going to do.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
Well, I think we're probably more in line with Labor on that respect, in that we think central government and local government should share the cost. But we think the crucial thing here is that local government needs to be given more ability to raise revenue. So that applies on the environmental front, being able to charge polluters, but it also applies on the transport front, things like congestion charging, giving local government more tools to be able to manage the issues in their local area, collect revenue and invest. And some of the silly rules that government puts in place that ties up local government, like the limits on debt, like some of the rules around the infrastructure funding that they're giving, that it's all greenfield and not brownfield. I mean, these little things that government puts in place that constrain local government, I think, are silly and need to be gotten rid of.
Okay, so if central government says, look, actually, we're still going to fund half of the light rail, for example, then central government still needs to give local council the ability to make the decisions. So give them some money, but still be like, you decide what you do with it.
Yeah, well, on transport, I mean, I actually agree with what Jacinda and Julianne were saying, and that NZTA should be responsible for all transport infrastructure. So, regardless of mode, that ability for them to be able to do the numbers and say, well, actually, this investment makes sense, regardless of whether it's road, rail, or bikes or whatever. That change makes absolute sense. And so that's a central government decision, but it's very much arm's length from ministers. Okay.
In that transport arena, what else would you bring to the table that would particularly, I guess, benefit Mount Albert?
Well, I think, I think the crucial thing is what we've already discussed. There needs to be, if we are going to have density done well, then we need to make sure that the infrastructure is in place now to actually deliver that, because otherwise, we're getting these new dense developments put up without car parks, which is great. It'll encourage them to use public transport, but if the public transport's not there, then they are going to buy the cars and they'll end up clogging the roads even more. So I think it really is taking that issue with urgency. Okay, sure.
Geoff, housing is a big one, and solutions to that. Labor has said we need to build more affordable houses. The Green Party said that house prices really need to come right down through a number of mechanisms. Opportunities Party has called for a tax on equity.
Yes.
In Mount Albert, you'll no doubt be vying for some of those national voters to vote for you as a protest vote. How are you going to convince them to vote for you when you're going to tax them on the equity on their houses?
Well, we're not going to keep that money. We're going to give it back to them in income tax cuts. That's the first priority. But national, the National Party is all supposed to be about growing the economy. What is actually holding our economy back? We are. New Zealand versus the rest of the world has the greatest distortion in our tax system towards housing. The game is most rigged in New Zealand towards housing. And then we stand back surprised when all of our money goes into investment in housing. It's absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. If we want a productive economy, we have to steer money away from housing. That means that means stopping the rise in housing prices, which the equity tax would achieve. And it would push all of our investment money, our savings, into much more productive uses. So it would be good for the economy, it would be good for people because it'll reduce inequality, and like I said, there'll be income tax cuts on top of that. So I would say to anyone who's actually really concerned with the economy, that worrying about it may make sense for you individually to invest in a house, but if we all do it, it's collective madness. We can't all get rich off buying houses off each other, folks.
Sure, it's not working, is it?
It's madness.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually, if you're really concerned about the economy, then the number one thing we could do, which would be good for inequality and for growth, would be our equity tax.
Okay, look, Geoff, numbers. According to this policy, when do you think, it is a longer term view,
Yes.
when do you think this will actually start seeing prices go down or just not keep growing? I mean, how's the forecasting looking around that?
Our target is to introduce the policy such that prices remain stable.
Okay.
And that would be stable going, indefinitely. So eventually incomes will grow and housing affordability will be restored through that route. The other thing with our policy, the thing with the Labour policy, they assume that the housing market is broken, and that's why no one's building houses. But the housing market is doing exactly what we're incentivising them to do, which is land bank. Because if house prices are going up, if land prices are going up, why would you build? It's better to just sit on the land. So we actually need to stop that rise, and that'll actually encourage more houses to get built.
Okay, so that equity tax will be on the land as well. So it's on
Absolutely.
any asset that you have. So house, fancy car, land.
Well, exactly what it applies to is to be negotiated with the government of the day. But we would say all major assets, certainly house, land is the biggest one in New Zealand.
Sure.
Fancy boats for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and people are concerned about foreign investment in New Zealand as well. So this would be a way of taxing overseas people who buy property here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It would be. The only reason that they're investing here is because they want the same tax breaks that we invest in housing for, right? So absolutely would be the tax would hit them potentially hardest, particularly if they're absentee. Then that tax would hit them particularly hard.
Okay, and why didn't you go down the capital gains tax route, which seems people more familiar with it? It's a bit more palatable. It's not as radical. You don't think that works?
Well, it doesn't. We've done a thorough look around the world. Capital gains tax has several problems, which particularly if you make exemptions, any tax, this is what people need to understand, if you make exemptions on any tax, it increases complexity. Rich people can afford accountants to be able to use the loopholes to their advantage. It's a disaster, right? So we don't want loopholes, and a capital gains tax taxes transactions. We don't want to discourage people to buy and sell houses. That's the market working. We just want to close the loopholes around the effective income that comes from that.
Okay. Do you find any protections for older people, who have been, they're relying on their house to sort of see them through their retirement, that they might not warm to this policy so well?
Well, in terms of cash flow, firstly, the elderly have seen the biggest capital appreciation, so they've got plenty of money stored in that asset. I don't have too much concerns for them in that respect. But in terms of cash flow is an issue. We will allow them to defer the payment until eventually they sell the house for whatever reason, and that's when the tax would then be paid.
Okay, so they'll pay their IRD back then.
Yeah.
Okay, right, Geoff. We'll wrap it up there. But thank you for your time. It is really interesting and encouraging, I guess, to have some radical views and just broaden the political discussion. So appreciate your time. And I'm Janae Tibbs-Shirani from interest.co.nz.